grandparents twice. Once when you're a kid, and the other when you turn into an adult. And now, Frank, he wasn't very different than many of the other grandparents I have in my life. He was, of course, a veteran. He was a father, and he, of course, lived in a different state, which is just something that all my grandparents happen to have. But despite me being a person that has been blessed to have not 2 but 4 sets of grandparents, Frank still managed to stand out. And what I really think made him special was just his larger-than-life character and personality. Now, there are some of these stories that I'm sure you've heard already, and some that I'm sure you will hear. Of course, there is his service to his country, his globe-trotting adventures, and his just fascinating love of birds. But there's one story that I really want to share with all of you tonight that's really stuck with me throughout my last 5 years in adulthood. Almost exactly 5 years ago, I dropped out of my first college after I graduated high school in 2019. I really thought I was going to go and be this crazy music educator. I was going to play my instrument as I've been doing for the previous 10 years of my life. I think I spent so much time just preparing for that moment, and then 2 months in I dropped out. I realized that I wasn't ready for college. I realized that I wasn't ready to. I realized that music was not truly my passion, and I realized that I had been rushing, and I had only been doing it just because I felt like I had to do it, not because I wanted to do it. Now, in retrospect, I do think that was one of the best decisions I ever made. I'm so proud of what that has led to my life being today. But of course, at the time, it just felt devastating to me, because I felt like everything that had been happening in my life up until then was wasted, and it hurt, and it led me to a pretty dark time in my life. But after I officially dropped out, 2 people came up to my campus up in New Hampshire, and they came to my very last music performance of that semester, because I still wanted to do that before I left, and then helped me move out of my dorm. Those 2 people were my mom and Frank, who came up. And Frank was one of the first people that truly recognized what I was going through at that time. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know that Frank was not really a person who, he never loved to talk about himself. He didn't really love to get into the weeds. He was very good at recognizing what someone was going through, and just said exactly what needed to be said to help them. And Frank, I think, was always a very courageous and respectable person. He was very humble. He was very down to earth. And again, being someone with 7 grandparents, he did that so much better than anyone else. Now, before, when I would come to visit him, or he would come to visit us in Connecticut, for a long time I felt like that we didn't really connect that much. I felt like we were too different. But as I was growing up, as I started developing a huge passion for traveling and going to road trips and so many different national parks, even though as I got to learn him more, I began to realize that I'd actually taken after him, and I didn't even realize it. One of the last things that I got to share with him was a photo book of all the journeys that I had taken in the last couple of years, from going on a coast-to-coast road trip all the way to the West Coast and back, from climbing dozens and dozens of mountains, to going international to the Scandinavian area in Europe. That was something that we really got to bond over. And of course, you may think from someone my age, I probably have all my photos digital, but I think I still have that gene in me that loved to print out those photos and to put them in a book and to show them to people. And brought that book down to show him while Frank was in the hospital, and that was one of the last things that we did before he died. And I think that was something that was really special to both of us. I got to show him the pics from when I went to the Grand Canyon. I got to show him pics from California, from the Midwest, and from when I went to Scandinavia, and more specifically, the city of Oslo, Norway, the city that I was named after. And even when his own memories were starting to slowly slip away from him, I felt like those pictures that I showed really reactivated some of his old memories in his brain. And I can tell that he really enjoyed it. And I also brought some national park trivia cards for us to play with, and he smoked us.
He did.
And although I'm very lucky to have known Frank for as long as I have, despite us being 60 years apart and a whole country, a whole coast away, one thing that I will always admire about Frank more than anything, and I will continue to for the rest of my life, was he was the father to my mother. If there's one last thing that I want to say to Frank right now, it would be this. Frank, you have created such an incredible woman. You created one of the most loving, most compassionate, most talented, caring, strongest, and most amazing human beings I have ever met.
Wow.
Without you, I don't think my mother would be the person that she is today, and I don't think I would be the person that I am today. And I hope, and even as a kid, one of the first things I remember about your relationship was just your special connection that you had with one another, and the love that you shared together throughout your whole life, even when he wasn't around. And I really hope that I can carry that same special kind of love and connection, and with you and with everybody in my life until the day I die, because I know that's what Frank would have wanted. And there was just so much that he did in his life, so many people that he touched, and while I wish I could, stick around to show more of the many adventures that I'm sure I'll go on in my life, I know the next time I climb onto the mountaintop, I'll think of him. And while I wish he could see it, and I'm sad I have to say goodbye so suddenly, I'm glad I got to share the time that I had. And with that, with bittersweet in my heart and with dignity, I proudly say goodbye to the man who raised the woman who raised me. Thank you.